Good morning. Thank you for being here and for braving the cold. We've got a very distinguished panel and a great turnout. Forgive some of the folks that will arrive late because of other circumstances. I'm in the unusual position of introducing a panel that I've never agreed with on Cuba policy, but that we're finding between ourselves a lot of common ground. As you know, NDN has only slightly touched on the Cuba issue, and we come at it from a political angle, always trying to find a way to sort of discuss this in a very important electorate in Florida. In fact, a crucial part of the electorate in Florida. And you know, I always thank Simon Rosenberg, because the underlying phrase of Cuba policy is "nobody gets out alive." It can be very toxic. It can hurt your career at State Department, so people avoid it like the plague sometimes. But it's always interesting. It's always evolving and yet staying the same. And I think we have now an opportunity to move that policy forward. I'm going to introduce everyone we have up here, and then they can go presenting on their way. Hopefully all the panelists will stay between 5 and 7 minutes, which will give us a lot of question and answer time at the end. The first panelist, obviously, is the recently arrived, and let me use Moonshot. He's the man who just came back from the moon, just returned from Cuba with probably the largest congressional delegation. We also have in the audience Congresswoman Solis, who also went there with him. The largest delegation of Congress people to ever travel to Cuba. He'll sort of give us a perspective of how things are on the ground and talk about his recently filed legislation. Secondly, we have someone who lives on the moon, Miriam Leiva from Cuba. She is the wife of noted dissident Oscar Chepe, who is an economist and a professor who was put in jail for his views in the group of 75 journalists that were arrested. She created a group called Las Damas de Blanco, the women in white, who would travel every Sunday to a major church service to request the freedom of their spouses. And in the case of Miriam, she was successful. Her husband was released, although he is under conditional liberty, which means he's not allowed to speak too much. Next to me, I have Janice O'Connell, whose wisdom on foreign policy is something I wish I would have listened to many years ago. But she has been a great asset to our country, serving on foreign affairs and with Senator Dodd, and will be one of the chief persons looking at Cuba legislation and existing Cuba programs and how we can deal with it. To my left is, and always to my left, is Julia Zweig, who is one of the foremost experts on Cuba policy. And while we don't agree on much, I don't think there's any more penetrating thinking, and someone who's tried to find more ways to sort of crack this very difficult issue. She has a wonderful piece that ran in Foreign Affairs. I think we have it in the packets, but if not, we'll give you the website so you can pick it up. It's an absolutely brilliant piece. And then finally, we have Sergio Bendixen. You know, he is the foremost expert on the Martians on the island and off the island, or the moon men. But he clearly has done more polling on Cuban Americans than anyone else. He's found those breaking points. Has always been able to be involved in national politics, and obviously the foremost expert on Hispanic polling, but the unquestioned expert on Cuban American polling. And he is going to present some, I think, a fascinating poll that he did post-Castro's disappearance from the political scene in Cuba, and the repercussions that could mean within the Cuban American community and how we look at U.S. Foreign policy.